Hey guys, how you doing? This is Tony Tone, the Chat Salcedo. Guys, today we're going to do another game review. The difference is now I'm going to do a game review on one of my favorite chess players of all time. He is the current number one world chess streamer. He is an incredible blitz, bullet player, you name it. His name is Hikaru Nakamura. I've been following him for years on YouTube. This guy is incredible. It's him and Magnus Carlsen at the top two as far as blitz and speed chess. But Hikaru consistently just reigns supreme in the world of bullet and blitz chess. Um, so let's check out a game. He's playing Jordan Van Forest, who's rated over 3,000 on chess.com, which is massive. Anything over 2,700, 28, 29, 3,000, forget it, is incredible. Hikaru, the highest chess rating ever in chess.com history at 3277. Let's see what he does. So, I'm not going to pretend to know everything that these grandmasters do. Just letting you guys know as a disclaimer. I'm going to see it as I see it based on my knowledge, with all my experience. But I follow this guy a lot. I follow Magnus. I follow Nakamura. I follow Ali Farouja. All these great current GMs in this time period. I'm a big fan. To me, Bobby Fischer is the best world champion in the history of chess ever. Gary Kasparov second, and to me, Magnus Carlsen actually might be second now. But they're the top three in my eyes. You know, everyone has their own preferences and their own opinion, but Bobby Fischer is just forget about it, incredible. And Hikaru Nakamura is similar to me, more to Gary Kasparov, because they're very tactical players. They're very aggressive. They're sharp thinkers. They're quick, and they're just great. So here we go. Hikaru is white. Jordan is playing black, and his favorite is e4, just like mine is. E5. This is the Italian game. He develops the bishop here to what c4, hitting the f7 square, which is the weakest square in the black camp. Just like the weakest square in the white camp always is f2. I've said this before. Anyway, so typical development. Black develops, attacking the pawn on e4, which is hanging, meaning it's undefended. No one's protecting it. Hikaru protects it. Black has the same idea. He pushes the bishop out to c5, putting pressure on that weak f2 square in the white camp. White developed tonight. This is a very symmetrical game. If you look at this, It's very, very symmetrical. So, knight is prevented from going here to g4. Why? Because if the knight were to come here, look at this. It's pinpointing that f2 square. Now, he could have done it before. He could have right here hopped in already to attack, double attack the f2 square. Um, I don't know why he did it, but he pushed the pawn. Now he prevents it by bringing the pawn here to h3, stopping the knight from coming to g4 right here. Also the bishop as well. I am predicting that the reason he made this move to c6 is to stop this knight from coming in here, because this would be a beautiful outpost for that knight. Because typically what these guys do is that the knight develops here. But then I could hop in here. He would take, I would take, and the problem is this square would be occupied by a white piece, which is bad for the black camp. So he prevents it by bringing that pawn here to c6. Okay, interesting. So this knight, which usually goes to g3, he develops it to e2. I'm trying to figure out why. We'll see in a few. He pushes the pawn here, which prevents the b4 push and getting the bishop out of the way. He does the same thing because, look, he would have attacked him here Let's say he goes here. He has to move the bishop out somewhere. And then he would push this forward eventually to try to trap the bishop here on b3. So he prevents it all by pushing to a4, the pawn. Here comes the bishop, develops. It attacks the bishop on c4, so it's kind of like a bishop standoff there. But it doesn't do anything. Apparently, this knight wants to hop into f5 for a nice outpost. So that explains why the knight didn't go here to f3. So he develops his knight as well. He can't go here because he pushed the pawn there to prevent the infiltration of the knight or the bishop on d5. Plus, it backs up this knight here in case this bishop comes here and pins the knight to the queen. So, guys, if you notice, these GMs they're already thinking ahead. They know opening theory. They know the opening sequence of moves. This was, I believe, the Italian game. Excuse me. And they already see. They already know. They have the experience. They've played these positions a million times. And to the normal person or beginner, someone who's not on this level, they're not going to fully understand all these moves. But I study these guys like crazy, especially Hikaru. Hikaru finally castles. He castles. And let's count the development. We got 1, 2, 3 pieces developed. Sorry, 4 versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So black currently has a lead in development, which is good for black. Because typically, because white goes first, he has the advantage, and white typically has the lead in development. But remember that white Hikaru made he moved this knight here on g3 2 times in a row, so that's why he's back in development. He doesn't have a lead. So the queen comes out. Interesting. The only reason I can see why he would do that is he wants to move the knight here to take with the queen if the bishop takes the knight. Because if he takes with the pawn, it would open up this file here. Again, this is just me guessing at my level. I don't presume to understand all grandmaster moves, even though I try. There's a great book out there that I bought a long time ago called, I don't remember the author, but it's called Think Like a Grandmaster. And guys, that's what you want to try to do. You want to try to emulate the guys who are the best, which are the GMs, to eventually think like them. So this is a precautionary move. He moves the king out to h8. I don't fully understand why yet. Maybe he wants to move the rook here to prevent an attack here on this g7 pawn, maybe from the knight. I mean, this black knight could take him. The queen is defending the knight if it were to go there. Oh, so I was right. The knight hops into f7, putting pressure on the g7 pawn here. Even if he were to move it, bam. He has a nice little jump spot right here on the h6. So let's see what black does. If you notice, guys, they don't show any of the moves or the move orders right here, the chess annotation at all. So I don't know what's coming next. I mean, if I click here moves, I can see it, but I'm on info, so I actually don't want to see it. So I don't know what's coming next. So maybe I can guess correctly. This also has a nice little hop right here to the e7 square. So the queen has to defend it. So it's kind of held hostage there. It also has a nice hop right here to the d6 square, attacking this pawn, which is currently defended by the bishop. So, guys, you got to see through all of this as you're playing. There's a lot going on. Oh, okay, so he moves out. He defends his pawn from the knight, which is already defended by the bishop. But more importantly, he attacks the bishop here on c4, which would be taken by the knight on d3, and it would create double pawns right here in the d file and a bad pawn structure. So he would leave this little e4 pawn alone. It would become an isolated pawn unless this pawn gets pushed. See my video on pawn structure, pawn formation, pawn play. So he brings the bishop out to pin the knight to the queen. I'm guessing because he moved this knight out, which was defending this knight. Again, these are my guesses. The problem that white has here, I see, we go back a move here. Knight moves to b6. He has a double attack here, not only from the knight, but from the bishop on c4. And there's only one pawn protecting it. So this would not be good for white. Again, there are exceptions to all these principles and rules. I don't know what Hikaru's thinking. I don't want to presume to know because the guy is incredible. But what I see is a double attack on this bishop and white losing this exchange because it's only one defend versus two attacks. But Hikaru has his own plans. He moves forward. Boom. He picks the knight. And therefore, look at that. He loses tempo. And he brings the knight back to d6 to re-protect or double protect this knight on f6 because it's protected by this and now this and triple protected by the queen. So if we look here, he takes. He's not going to take with this pawn because then he's going to open up a file leading to his king. So I don't think he would do that. So what he does is he bring the knight back to triple protected. 1, 2, and 3 protections versus one attack. But that attack is strong because he's pinning that knight to the queen. And like there's a saying, the pin is mightier than the sword. So he brings the rook out here. It's a good move. He finally develops the rook off the A file onto the D file. It's great because I talked about X-rays in the past, and I could see through all of this right here to get to this queen. So the queen gets out of the way because he sees the X-ray. Eventually he sees all this opening up in the future. Now the problem is he no longer has a triple protection on this knight. He has only 1, 2. It's still good enough, but the queen no longer protects that knight. All right, he now solidifies this bishop here because it's protected twice, but it's only attacked once. Why? Because the knight that used to be on b6, which is right here, was double attacking this bishop, but it went back to double protect the knight on f6. So now the knight moves back, which is good because it's no longer pinned to the queen that used to be here on d8. And now he has, strong defense of his king here on h8. Plus, he could push these pawns to get this bishop out of the way. All right, since the knight cannot hop into this square here on d6, he's going to redeploy it and move it over here, heading towards, I guess, the king side. I don't know his plans, but this is what I see. He moves the knight to e2. Now, he pushes this knight out of the way. Very strong knight, very strong bishop in the area of the king side of the black camp. The problem is because he moved this pawn, it now no longer defends these two critical squares in that area of the board where the king is. So now, boom, he has a square that's occupied right here, and if he were to take it, he takes this knight back, which attacks the rook, which is hemmed in and it can't move anywhere. I don't know really why Jordan or GM Voorhees moved this pawn here up, opening up the dark square weakness here. I mean, look, when he does that, now the dark squares around the king are weak. I don't know what the other grandmaster's thinking, but this is what I just see. He does that, and now he tries to push the bishop out, which is good for him because it opens up the file with the rook on it, leading to an X-ray on the queen right here on the F file. Queen sitting on F3. So the queen or the bishop has to move somewhere and get out the way. The problem is if he does that, it stops the defense of his knight here on H6, which is attacked by this knight here on G8. So he would have to stay on the same diagonal to defend the knight. Let's see what he does. He does just that. And now he takes the bishop, which was defending the knight. So now he takes the bishop back and redefends the knight with the queen. He pushes forward. I guess he wants to create some space in this area. Plus, he wants to open his file for his rook, which is good for him. Because if he pushes this pawn forward here to F4, he really hems in the queen. The queen has to get out of the way, and then this knight picks up a free knight. So what I'm seeing is that this knight now has to take this knight or he loses it. Or, excuse me, I was wrong. He takes that pawn. He takes back with the pawn because had he taken back with the bishop, he probably would have taken it with the knight. The problem is he's creating a little too much open space here for my liking. So now he takes the knight. He takes the knight back with the rook, which is leading right into the white camp, opening the semi-open file on the G file, which is not good for white because the king is there, which is an X-ray that sees right through it. I've talked about X-rays. So now the bishop takes the bishop, queen takes the bishop, and now he pushes this. Why does he push this? In my eyes, he's pushing this because if this pawn takes this pawn here on F4, he exposes a discovered attack on the black queen, which is hanging. No one's defending it. So I get it. Another thing is if he pushes this pawn to lock up the position, I have a 1-2 double attack. He only has, oh no, he has 2 defends. Let's see, he goes here. Oops. Sorry, guys. I just messed that up completely. Let me go back to where we were. All right, right here. So if he pushes, he has 1-2 defends if the pawn were on E4. And I have 1-2 attacks on it. So let's see what happens. Oh, he doesn't push. So he defends it. So he can take this. And then this queen is protected by the rook on G6. So even if I were to take it, he would have taken me back. See what he does? All right. This is another reason why he pushes here, not only to defend the queen, but he gets a battery with the 2 rooks lined up on the G file against the king, which is bad for white. So he sees this. He brings the white rook up to F2 to defend this pawn. He does just that. This is a nice little battery, a battering ram with 2 rooks, very strong. So if we play this out, he takes, I take, he takes, king takes, black would lose that exchange, and we'd be up a rook. White would be up a rook. So he gets out of the way, clearing the way for the rook to triple protect this pawn. The queen now puts more pressure on that. Look at this. There's 3 attacks versus only 1 defend. What does white do? Hikaru pushes the pawn, which attacks the queen. The queen has to get out of the way. This plan doesn't work now. Why? Because black would lose his queen. So if we play this out, the queen ain't going to take this because he would lose it to the rook, even though this rook would take it. You lost your queen. That's a big bad girl. You don't want to lose her. So the queen has to do something, get out of the way here, and she goes back to where she was on E6. Now, white takes the pawn on e5. Black takes back with the pawn. Why? Because he controls all the space and is protected once, twice, right here. So I cannot take this pawn, which would check the king. But here we go again. Hikaru again pushes forward, attacking his pawn twice, but it's defended twice. I don't understand why he did that, because if this takes that, I'd have to move out of the way or take the queen, and then the rook would take the queen, putting pressure on the knight here on e2. Again, I don't know what Hikaru's plans are. He knows way more than me by far. Let's see what he does. Oh, so black counterattacks the queen sitting on e3. Interesting. The queen cannot take this pawn because the knight would take it and white would lose the queen. So white has to either move here or move here. Let's see what he does. He moves to e4. Okay. Which, if he were to take this pawn, it's defended 3 times: the knight, the rook, and the queen. Unless he wants to trade queens. I don't know what his intentions are. All right, he moves out of the way, I guess, to reprotect this pawn on h7, put the rook on an x-ray where the king is here. On the h-file. I'm trying to understand Grandmaster Forest's plans and intentions as well, on top of Hikaru's. All right, so he takes, and instead of taking back, which you could have with either piece, the knight or the queen, he decides to attack the queen here and a double attack on the b3 pawn. So I see why he did that. So I got 1, 2. He would have to come here to protect his pawn. Or he could take this, but he would lose the pawn again, which messes up the pawn structure right here. This is a nice little pawn island, even though there's a backward pawn here on b3. You always want to attack. If you look at my pawn formations, pawn structure video, you always want to attack the backward pawn, which is the weakest link to this little pawn island. If this pawn were here on b5, that would be different. And then he would attack the weak pawn on a4. It's all about pawn play. Anyway, let's go back here. He's attacking the queen, which is more important. So that queen has to do something. I don't know what it's going to do, where it's going to go. Let's see. All right, so he stays here on the 3rd rank, protects the pawn on b3 from the knight's attack, gets out of the way, and now he has a triple attack on this pawn on f4. I don't know if he would open that or take it. He probably didn't, because he knows that he would open up these files leading to his king. So that's not cool for white. So black takes the free pawn. 1, 2, 3 versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, 4. So if 5 has white pawns, white has 5 pawns. Black has 5 as well. I forgot about this. So they're tied in the pawns and in material. 2 rooks and 1 knight. But now black has an open file. Wow, interesting. So Hikaru decides to take this pawn here. He's up a pawn now. Problem is he runs into a nasty little discovered attack. Actually, that would not be good, because if he moves the rook here, the knight hops here, attacks the king, and it opens up a discovered attack on his rook on the f file. So you got to see what's going on here. So white has the advantage. He has a good open file here, even though the queen has an open file here. But I believe white has a safer king because he has all these pieces around him. And the white rook on guarding the back rank. The black king is a little more exposed. So you got to weigh all these options and evaluate the position based per move. All right, so the knight hops in here, attacking the rook, which is protected by the queen. So this queen cannot take this knight. The rook moves and it pins the knight. That was a bad move from black. Let's go back. I thought this was a bad move to bring the knight here to e4. Why? Because now look, the rook pins the knight, and now he's attacked twice with only one defend. So now he defends it twice. The problem is white can triple attack this knight, um, which puts way more pressure on that knight that's pinned to its queen. And even if it was the rook to come here, the black rook were to come to e6 to put a triple defense on the knight, this knight could take that rook and white would be up the exchange, which is a disadvantage heading into an endgame. So I don't know. This looks like it might be close to the end here if he doesn't do something about that pinned knight on e4. So exactly what I said. 1, 2, 3 attacks versus 1, 2 defends only. Even if the rook comes here, he can take the rook and be up the exchange. And if the queen takes the knight, this is a triple attack still on this knight. This looks really bad for black. It looks resignable if you ask me. Um, but these are GMs. Let's see what happens. Triple attacks. Oh, I can't go anymore. And so black resigns here. I was right. Let's go to the moves. Yeah, he resigned right here on move 33. All right, guys. So you see what happened here. There's no checkmates. When GMs play, world champions, GMs, IMs, international masters, a lot of times you will never see a checkmate. They never get the checkmate. Why? They never go and finish a mate because they already see what's coming. They know to resign respectfully in a lost position, so they don't even play it out. If we were to play this out, black would be in a mega disadvantage. And I mean, look, he has a triple attack here on the knight. There's no way to defend this a third time without losing that rook. And on top of that, excuse me, white is up a pawn heading into an endgame, which is bad for black. And you're playing Hikaru Nakamura, the best blitz player on earth. Him and Magnus Carlsen. Um, this I would have resigned here too. I would have probably resigned. This was a blunder. Looking back now, this is a clear blunder that Grandmaster Forrest made by bringing this knight here to e4. Big time. It was resignable right here. Once he should have noticed, oh man, I can't defend this knight against the pin that's coming. Triple. Look at that. Double pin. And then the queen triple attack. All right, guys. So I hope you enjoyed that. I went through a Grandmaster game with my favorite chess streamer and Grandmaster in today's world, Hikaru Nakamura. The guy is incredible. He's a beast. He's a monster. He has the highest rated on chess.com. I think he's had him and Magnus. I think Hikaru. He just maintains this massive chess rating on chess.com. And that's it. I hope you learned a lot of this. Is not really for beginners. For those beginners looking at this, I mean, it's good if you can watch it. You're not going to fully understand it. I don't fully understand all this stuff, but I explained it best I can. I was correct in my assessment for the most part, not the entire game probably, because remember these grandmasters they're much higher level thinkers in this game. We don't know what their plans or their intentions are. This happened to play out the way I thought towards the end, but it's great to study these games, guys. I can't stress this enough because you just pick up little things that you normally would not have picked up if you don't study grandmaster games. And I'm going to be doing more of these chess game reviews with grandmasters, with different GMs, including Magnus, who, by the way, guys, just so you know, he's not the current world champion. He was a 5-time chess world champion. He forfeited his title because he got bored. I don't know why exactly, about a year ago. And so the current world champion is the Chinese grandmaster, Lin Duran, or Duran Lin, I think. I can't remember. And but Magnus Carlsen is still the current number one chess player on earth. Guy's incredible. Today's best, hands down. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, guys. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel. Please hit the notification bell if you can so you can get notified when I post new videos, which is more and more frequent now. Literally every single week, I'm posting something new. So thanks for watching. This is Tony Tone, the Chess Salcedo, and I am out. Peace.